Hi, we're here with head football coach Steve Coury from Lake Oswego High School. Coach, thanks for joining us. First of all, let me ask you, you've been on board with Lake Oswego High School for quite some time. When you first got there was no real relationship between the high school and the youth football program. How did that change and what brought about that change?
First off, it's great to be with you and hanging out and just talking a little bit. I've been there a long time at Lake Oswego. This is my 25th year. And going way back to the time you're talking about, the youth program, it became very apparent to me in the very early stages of this job that it needed to be tied together. And what we had when I took the program over was we had a Lake Oswego community, so the city of Lake Oswego, so Lake Ridge kids and Lake Oswego kids, high school kids, were part of the youth program. So I really thought what we needed to do was separate. And the issue early was the numbers. We didn't quite have enough numbers of kids playing to run it on our own. So we waited a few years, and I think, Brian, it was probably 4 years before I said, we need to be on our own. And what was so important about that in my mind was I wanted the program to be an extension of the high school program. Thought it was vital to the high school program to have this youth organization be doing the same things we were doing, talking the same language we were talking, teaching the same lessons we were teaching to the kids. And so we separated at that time from Lake Ridge and just made a Lake Ridge and then a separate Lake Oswego program. We started running it on our own. And we grew from around that time, I want to say it's about 40 kids that were playing. And at one point we were at about 325, and numbers fluctuate as you go. But it's been a huge, huge thing for our program. I think if there was one single effort, one single thing that made a difference in the program, I really believe that was it. And been a beneficial thing for us ever since.
Coach, over the past 5 or 6 years, there's been a little bit of a decline in the numbers of participation in football, not just at Lake Oswego, but throughout the league. What do you attribute to the decline in those numbers?
I think it's a combination of a lot of things, really. Obviously, the injury scare, if you will, and I'm not downplaying that, but I think that's been a huge part of what's happened in the recent years. So that's a part of it. I think the fact that there is now year-round sports that's being pushed and kids are involved in, I think that's a big part of it. Kids are choosing to play one sport and specialize, if you will, which is very different than it was, years back. So I think that's a contributing factor. I think there's just a lot of things that come into it that are taking away the numbers. There's a lot more sports now being offered. Lacrosse has become very big, and again, some of the schools and some of the programs will have, A teams, B teams, C teams. So there's a lot of kids playing them. I think one of the things from a number standpoint that's sort of discouraging to me is the specialization part. Kids specializing in basketball or baseball. It doesn't matter the sport. I think that we are making a huge mistake with our young kids, doing that or encouraging that. From a coach's standpoint to a parent's standpoint, I think it's a mistake. So what my whole point is with our kids and our families is the experience you're going to have here in high school. That's it. This is it. So enjoy it all. Play all the team sports that you can play or that you enjoy. Play basketball and play baseball. Be a part of a team. Keep learning the things that these sports and these team sports can teach you. Instead, you're going to look back someday and wish you had been a part of the basketball team or the baseball team or the lacrosse or whatever it is. And then the other thing, Brian, that's becoming more and more apparent is there's all kinds of studies and things that are showing that kids that are using the same muscles over and over and doing the same sort of exercises, if you will, playing basketball, running up and down the court for year-round. There's more knee injuries, there's more ankle things. The pitchers that are throwing year-round as young kids are showing There's more arm surgeries, elbow injuries, things like that. So kids need to be well-rounded and use their body and give some body parts a rest, like a pitcher. For him to pitch 12 months a year is a mistake, and it's really starting to scientifically be proven. So I just think it's something parents and kids should really, really take a look at, and look at the benefits and then the things that aren't the deterrents to doing it. And I think they'll find there's a reason to be doing other things.
Coach, you talk about family as being a big part of your philosophy. Can you tell us a little bit about that, and how does that really play into the way you coach and teach those young men how to play football?
I was born and raised in a family that was all about family. I raised my family that way. So it's really the way I run my own life. And I truly believe that the reason I'm doing what I'm doing and our coaches buy into the same philosophy, it's all about teaching kids lessons in life, teaching young kids things that are going to benefit them down the road, just like family does. And I'm a firm believer in love and treating people right. And again, a lot of it is family values. So we talk a lot in the program about family. And again, family's a broad word, covers a lot of things. And you can go again from the way you treat people, the way you treat each other, the adversity you find in families, the sometimes you don't always get along, you have disagreements, and that's all a football program. That's what a football program is. And I'm the father of the deal because I'm the guy running it, and the assistant guys are the older brothers, and then it falls down. So yeah, family's big. And I think that what my hope is when these kids leave this program, that they realize how important their family is, how important the Laker family is, and all of the family values that we talk about, we preach, we live in our football program are things that they will utilize in their families as they become adults and start having their own kids, and even spread it to their parents and to their siblings now. So that's really kind of the hope, and that's the plan when we talk family and try to live it in the LO program.
Coach, social media is a big part of your athletes' lives today. How do you teach your players how to use, and how do you adapt to the use of social media?
Great question, and I don't know if I'm being an old guy, and it's hard for me to kind of relate to all of it. I see it. It's not going to go away, for sure. We've had to adapt to some of the things that I believe that it's doing to our youth. In other words, we're living in a world now where it's instant gratification. They can get instant information. They can go anywhere in the world almost, with a touch of a button. And it's changed a little bit about how kids behave and how their attention span, how long you can keep that, and when you're in meetings, how long they can focus. So I think it's done a lot in the sense of this instant gratification is part of their life. That's what they've grown up with, and it doesn't always happen like that in the real life scenarios, especially in a football program, a game, a practice. So that's been a real challenge. The other thing that's a challenge is communication. I believe that we're losing the skill that you and I are doing right now, which is looking eye to eye and talking to each other. And kids have a very hard time with that. Their communication world, again, is more the phone, is more the computer. You Instagram, you do text messaging. But you're not talking person to person. There's something in between there, and I think that's been a real tough thing for me, especially when you go to talk to kids, communicate to kids, and looking them in the eyes and talking that way. If a kid's got a problem or he's feeling something, it's hard for them to communicate that. Easier for them to text it or email it to you, and you can misinterpret that stuff a lot, I think. And so that scares me a little bit. That's been a big change. Them having fun, you got to make sure they're having fun. Part of their world of fun is games and entertainment, again, computer and phones and things like that. So we've altered a little bit of what we try to do during the week of practice to make sure we're doing some fun things and having some fun deals that they can take their mind off the task of, we're in a 50 defense or whatever, we're blitzing or we're doing this, kind of take them off task and have fun, laugh a little bit, and then get back to work. So as an old guy, man, I'm learning and I'm trying to adapt to things, and some of it really does, and I see it in my own kids. But some of it does bother me. I think it is changing things, sometimes not all for the good, but it's here to stay. So we better start figuring it out, what may be beneficial, what changes we can try to make within their world that can help them too.
Coach, you've been successful at Lake Oswego High School for a number of years. There's a lot of new coaches that are coming in, and now they're looking up to you to provide advice and guidance on how they can become successful coaches. What advice do you have for them, both at the youth level as well as at the high school?
Well, I appreciate what you're saying, and I appreciate the fact that some of those guys out there do respect me. I've got great friends out there. I've been fortunate enough to be around as long as I've been around. So we have had guys ask for advice. I don't know if advice may be a little bit strong, but ask for how we do things and how we see the program and what are the things that are important in our program. Things like family, and that's a very big thing. We live by one rule that I think is really important, and I share this with all the coaches that ask me. If we have 65 guys on our roster, our goal in the year is to make the 65th guy feel as good as the number one guy. And I think it's a great goal and a great rule. And if you make things like that a priority, then you'll make sure that they happen. So that's a priority in our program, and that's one of the things I'll share with the coaches. What's the priority? I think the coaches are also interested in how we run practices, and I think that is because they want to know how we treat the kids, I believe. They want to see the interaction and see how we interact with the kids and how much screaming and yelling there might be going on, or how much negativity, or how positive we are, whatever it is that we do. They want to see that. And then I've had some guys ask me about some of the tough decisions we've had to make, and eliminate a guy, kick a guy off, whatever it might be. And how do we deal with that, and that's pretty easy. The rules in the program are treat people like you want to be treated and do what's right. And then everything else kind of fits in those categories somewhere. And if you're not doing that, then we have an issue. So I've learned a lot from a lot of people out there. It's not just all Steve Coury, but and I appreciate the fact that guys do come and want to share ideas. I try to share ideas not only with them. I'll go places and share ideas. There's a lot of great ideas and great programs. There's not one particular way to do it. We've had a lot of success, and a lot of that's we've got good players. We've got a great coaching staff and a bunch of guys that care the same way that I do, and it's not caring about how many championships you have, and I know that's cliche, and how many games you win and things like that. It's more about that 65th guy and how he feels.
Coach, there's a lot of parents out there who are trying to decide whether they let their kids play football or not. What advice do you have for them?
First thing I'd say is that, I believe that the sport teaches young men so much about life and the lessons that you're going to learn and the things you're going to be able to take from this sport and utilize for the rest of your life are very, very valuable. And I'm not sure there's another sport that can get that same thing out of it. Now, there could be arguments for that too, but I truly believe that. I think the game and the scenarios and the practices and the dealing with people and the discipline and the decisions and the get knocked down, get back up, all those things are all part of the game. So that's part of life. So I'm a firm believer in that. I think the injury thing, I think now more than ever it's being addressed. They're changing rules, I think all for the good. They're looking, equipment's getting better, all those things. There are huge steps going towards making the sport safer. So I think as time goes on, that's going to be answered, and I think more and more it's still going to be. You could ride your bike and fall down. We all know that. You could be rock climbing at the club and fall. So there's a lot of ways you can still get hurt. We can't live in a bubble. So I just think all the pluses outweigh any kind of minuses you could bring up. Sure, I think maybe starting a little bit later. I'm kind of an advocate of that. In other words, if we started in sixth grade, maybe that's a better deal. Maybe we do something from third grade to sixth grade that we're doing flag football, for instance. Still learning the game, still playing the game, still having fun with the game, still learning the lessons of the game. And then maybe when we're a little older, a little more mature, we put the pads on. So, but they'll look at all that. I think people as we go along are doing all the right things to make sure it's safe. I have a family and kids, and I definitely wouldn't do anything to harm my kids for sure, or put them in harm's way. So I get what the parents are concerned about. But I think if you really looked at the track record of the sport and all the people that have played it, now maybe not the NFL guys that we're hearing about that have played, and those guys are 100 miles an hour at each other and things like that. I think I'm talking through youth and high school. I think it's safer than the image it has right now, too.
Coach, there's been a lot of changes to football over the last few years to reduce injury, and you've actually introduced a few of your own that are unique. You have a Saturday workout. Tell us a little bit about your Saturday workout and how that impacts injury.
And it's yoga of all things, and I really started it after finding out a little bit about it, and it's really a preventative thing. It's stretching. It's after the game on Friday night, and it's proven to be something that can help prevent injuries. It also gives us an opportunity. Kids may have a slight pull or a slight injury they're not even aware of, and this yoga class could bring that out. It's going to keep them really flexible. They're not going to be near as sore. So I'm really doing it as a benefit for the kids, and again, for a prevention, we can stay loose, so we can be more limber. It's a proven fact that injury will go down a little bit too. Now, there's some injuries you're not going to prevent for sure, but that's what got us into the Saturday workout. So the kids show up. It's a 45-minute program that Twist does for us, a local group. They do an unbelievable job. The kids really, really enjoy it, and it's very relaxing for them. So I think it's had its benefits other than waking up at 8:30 and getting to school.
Hey, Coach, thank you so much for being with us. We really appreciate your time, and good luck with the rest of the season.
Thanks very much. Great to be with you.